Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
All right. Okay, I think we're good. All right. Good morning.
Morning.
Morning. I've said that a gazillion times already, right? It's like, okay, Stephanie, we get it. Morning, right? All right. Okay. So, and then hello to everyone in Zoom land. Great to have you here. It's April.
Thank you.
Thank you. I love participation. You guys know that about me. So it's April 19th. WT, H or F, whichever one you want, right? It's like crazy. It's like, where is it really the 19th? It's like, where is the time going? Truly.
MLS dues are due.
Oh my God, that's right.
Oh, thanks for the reminder. Oh, it's due tomorrow? Tomorrow?
420. It is. I think they did it as a joke.
I believe you. So make sure you pay your MLS dues.
420. I think they did it as a joke.
Okay.
Canon culture.
All right. So Kurt, since you're chatting, let's go ahead. Come on out.
Yeah.
Come on out. Yeah.
It's
It's so far away. It's Earth Day week. Anyway, there's your quote for the day.
Nature is painting for us day after day. Pictures of infinite beauty by John Ruskin.
So Ronan, what does that mean to you?
What it means is that the world is full of beauty.
Yep, absolutely. Because there is so much. I mean, heaven is on here on earth, right? So has anybody been to Yosemite before? Right? Is that like a beautiful, beautiful place, or what? To go have to share some beauty,
Especially
right? Or experience it. Does anyone else have a place where that's absolutely beautiful and stunning that you
We
recommend?
don't have to go very far.
But yeah.
And we got, our backyard is gorgeous.
Yep, that's so true.
Yeah.
Joshua,
Yellowstone is also gorgeous.
Yes.
I haven't been there, but I like the show.
That show is good.
Yeah, it's so awesome. Yeah, so really go out and experience everything that you can, right? Okay, so thank you all. So we want to congratulate Ray and his team with Lucrum Real Estate Forward Capping. Right? Okay, so his whole team, right, with Scotty and Matthew. I know. And then also Mandy McConnell, congratulations to you for getting that capping and getting that 100%, because that is the name of the game here at Keller Williams Calabasas. All right. Okay, we also want to welcome the new agents who have joined the party. Joined the party over the last couple of weeks. We have Carmen Alvarado, Roxana Mendez, Amrita, and Sandra. So welcome.
Thank you.
Huh? Yeah, the golf clap. Okay, and then we have our top producers, top sales volume, top units closed, right? Highest sales price and I want to ask you that. And top commercial producers. Huh? I'm on there. Whoa. Yeah. Now, because remember what the threshold is to be in the top units closed. That's 3 or more units for the month, right? 3 or more units to be in top close. We have Rob and Nikki, the Galoo's team, Team Sell It, Christine. And then our top sales volume is always 2 million and above. So that's Rob and Nikki, David, Phillip, Galoo's again, Jordan Davies, My Home LA, Zach King, Mike Cosgrove, Christy Dietz. And then obviously our highest sales price, David Chemess, Michael Koshad, Rob and Nikki. And then our top commercial producers, Luke Graham, who we're working on a press release. He just sold a $23 million
Wow.
property. Yeah, so he'll be the high sales price for next month. And then our beautiful rising star, which she's not, oh, she's traveling, is Lexi. Lexi Wilkes. Woo! She's been picking some major bouquet for sure.
Thank you.
Oh, there
Thank
you
you, everyone.
Yes, yes. Okay, so we are really, where is he? Where's he? Oh, there you are. So again, he really doesn't need any introduction, but today's guest speaker, Danny Arido, right? He's a strategic branding and client appreciation expert. His company is presented at Family Reunion, KW Lex event, and Mega Camp. He's going to share with you how to retain your clients and increase referral business. But before you speak,
Yes.
right, before you come up, I just want to say something real quick. I have, well, Louisa, where's Louisa?
She's in there.
She's here. Yeah, we're about supposed to be in here. Louisa! Anyway, okay, so, but it's been such a great experience. You know, I bought Petco for my clients and past clients, etc. And the customer service that one that Danny provides is second to none. And also the product. I have a bunch of them at home. I use them all the time and then giving them to gifts, and people are just so thrilled about it, right? So I just wanted to let you know from personal experience that it's just been an amazing, it's an amazing tool for you. So, and Louisa can speak to that as well. So without further ado, Danny, come do the same.
Thank you, thank you.
Mila, why don't you share with the
Oh,
crowd
man,
before I
you're
start
real quick.
your experience?
Well, actually, the set that Danny's holding there, that's the set that I've been giving out to my clients.
Oh, yes.
Danny's been great about giving me some quick tips about, you know, how to get into the clients, how to interact with the clients. And, you know, I've given away 6 of them now, and every one of them is the same. The shipment came in, great, you know, gives me a phone call, gives me a review, and then Danny follows it up with a phone call, and his crew calls him up as well. So Danny's great, his crew's great, and, you know, I'm loving the Cutco. Oh, the wife's loving it, by the way, too. He gives away little gifts too, so that's awesome.
Yep.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
I gotta make sure she likes me too.
Yeah. Oh, and by the way, you can brand it. So if you wanted to brand
That's right.
your knives, you can brand it with the Placencia group. Just do everybody Placencia.
The routine blew up. That's
We also
awesome.
have the camera there, so you
Oh.
can get to people on Zoom and us.
Ah, cool. Luisa, can you just share your experience real quick? I know you've been doing this for 5-6 years now.
So horrible. No, my client loves it, and what's so cool about it is that, they want to refer you people because they want to get the whole set of the Petco. They're like, oh my God, this is so amazing, we love it, and they're like, so how do I get the whole set? I'm like, well, that's a good question. And so I tell them, like, once you refer people, then you will get basically the rest of the set. And so I actually just gave, because I got a referral from it, so I gave my clients another set of the butter knife.
Mhm.
And they're like, what, we get another thing? And I'm like, yeah, remember? And she got like, well, here's my list. I have like 3 more people that you would want to talk to.
Perfect.
So, I mean, I have it, I have a set of it, and it's amazing, and all of your clients, whether they're young, because I have millennials who's like, she's like 22, and she got it, and she like loves it. She's like, oh my God, you're so fancy. I'm like, yeah, yes. Right, and then they also get the yearly, what do you call that, where they have to sharpen it.
Yeah, service.
So then you get a text, and then I call them, I'm like, hey, by the way, how's everything, blah, blah, blah. I don't even have to talk to them about real estate. I'm like, hey, remember that set that knife I gave you? Well, you're free, because I paid for it. Sharpening
Right.
is coming up. And you're like, it is, like, oh, that's amazing. And I think it's still working, but yeah, I'll take it, right? I'm like, perfect. And then that's kind of like a way that when I try to follow up with them, I don't really have to talk about real estate and just talk about Petco, and they're like, this is amazing.
Awesome.
So yeah.
There's my talk, so just pass it. That's right. All right, well, yeah, so first of all, as you heard, my name is Danny Garrido, like burrito, but with a G, who doesn't like burritos? And you all know I work with Cutco Closing Gifts, and I was telling Stephanie, I'm just excited to be here in person, live, which is great. So why I'm here today is I want to chat with you about making sure your clients remember you and that you actually stay top of mind with every client that you work with. Because here's the thing, if they can't remember you, they can't use you again or refer you, right? And one of the biggest things about any thriving business is repeat business and referral business. Yes or yes? Yeah. So I want to share with you an interesting stat. The NAR did a study, and what they found is that 86% of people said they would love to use their realtor a second time. Do you know what the actual stat is? 9%.
Wow.
9% of past people use their realtor a second time, right? And by the way, that's freaking crazy when you consider how much time you spent with them. But we've all had the experience of calling a past client and then realizing they went with someone else, or driving by their house and you see a different realtor signpost in their yard. You're like, ow, right? We all know how that feels. Why does that happen, right? Well, two main reasons. Your client, right, that person can't remember the realtor's name, or it's just not convenient to find. So as a company, we found a way to solve both those problems with one thing that you are already spending money on, and that is the type of gift you're giving. Now, if you think about the most common gifts that are given, gift cards, gift baskets, bottle of wine, champagne, balloon, dinner out. By the way, there's nothing wrong with that. People love a gift, it's free. The challenge is when you think about it, where are those gifts? They're consumed, they're gone, they're eaten, they're drank, they're spent, used once, and then boom. So in a short period of time, there's no remembrance of that realtor. So we believe what Patricia Fritz says. And she says this, it's not your client's job to remember your name. It is your responsibility to make sure they never get a chance to forget it. And how do we do that? We basically brand you forever. Now, what I mean by forever, okay, question, by show of hands, how many of you actually have Cutco in your home? Just raise your hand. Now keep your hands up really high. Look at all the sexy, intelligent people with their hands raised. Now keep your hands up for a second, please, because I'm going to call on you. I'm going to ask you two questions. One question is, I want you to tell me how long you've had it in your home and one thing you like about it. Okay? So do you know how long you've had it in your home so far?
About a year now.
About a year. One thing you love about it.
My wife loves it. She's a chef, so.
Oh, there you go. All right, let's go to his house. Jamie.
Now 3 years, and it's my favorite knife in the house.
Awesome. Awesome.
I love that it's red. It's my only red knife. And I don't know if you guys have ever tried to cut spaghetti squash, but it's near impossible. And it's my one knife that's just like butter.
Boom. That is awesome. So conceptualize that for a second. Giving your client a gift they're going to have in their house for the next 2, 5, 15, 20 years. So what do? Well, we take a product that people see and use every single day, and we engrave it with your logo, name, and phone number right on there. And this obviously does a couple of things for your business. Number one is top of mind awareness. As you all know, statistically, which room in the house gets used the most every single day? I knew that was coming.
It's true. More than the kitchen.
So statistically, the kitchen is the never. Well, I guess it depends what you eat in your kitchen. So yeah, okay. But yeah, so the kitchen statistically is the number one room used in the house on a daily basis, and their house is also number one. Okay. What do you think is the number one item used in the kitchen every day? A knife. And so what we've learned is the kitchen is people hanging out, entertaining, cooking. These are out being seen and being used, right? Then people see the white handle and like, hey, where'd you get that ivory knife? Or hey, by the way, where'd you get that, red handle knife? Oh, you know what? I got that from Danny, my realtor. He has to sell by XYZ. My point is, it sparks conversation about you and your services. You're not even there. You can't make every client get together, but guess who can? Okay. The second point that I want to share with you is the IRS guidelines. Does anybody, by the way, I think you guys know this. What's the rule according to the IRS? How much can you write off for a closing gift? You guys know? 25 bucks. Thanks for that $15,000 commission. Here you go. Right? That doesn't look very good. All right. So what we've learned is most agents are spending $100 to $500 or more writing it off. Okay. What's good about Cutco is we engrave it with your brand logo name. So now it goes under advertisement and promotional costs rather than a gift cost. Because you're going to spend the money anyway, you might as well get the write-off, right? Okay. And the last thing is this, it's having a system in place. When you really think about it, how are most closing gifts purchased? Last minute. Why? Because closings happen last minute or get delayed. Next thing you know, you're running around town, figuring out, do they drink? Don't they drink? What do they like? What are they into? Are they lactose intolerant? I don't even freaking know. Next thing you know, you're in a line at a grocery store with a bottle of wine and a gift card because you ran out of time. So what we do is we simplify everything for you. We put a gifting system in place for you. We get you a year's supply of gifts, right? We ship you everything up front. Okay, we bill you over 6 months or 12 months, 0 interest. So now when you have a closing referral, someone to thank, you just grab, you go, you give. I'm branded and done. I don't have to freak out, right? So it keeps it super easy on you because again, you don't think, you just go, okay? Which is pretty cool. Gifts are gonna range between $95 and $300. That's what you spend generally anyway, so it fits right in there as well. What I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna pass around the gifts so you guys can see some samples, okay? Now we're all business people here, right? And all business people have what? Business cards. So what I want you to do right now is pull out your business card for me, please. Okay. And here's how this is going to work. I already got your card, so you're good. If you have any interest in this, you want more information, okay, you want pricing, or you even want to place an order or reorder, okay, what you're going to do as the gifts come around is you're going to take the card and you're going to stick it on the side of the lid. So the lid meets the card meets the lid, party time. Pretty simple, okay? That's my first point. My second point. Do not, I repeat, do not touch the blades. It's been my experience, if you run your hand across the blade, it will cut you. We were on the History Channel for the world's sharpest knife for a reason. Now, I have some good news for you. In 3 years, I haven't had a bleeder. Don't be the bleeder today, okay? So do not touch the blades, okay? And the last thing is this. Stephanie, thank you so much for allowing me to come in. You guys, this office has been great for me for several years, and I want to do something unique for you guys that are here and also in Zoom land. So I like to reward people who take action now on things they obviously want to be doing in their business. So we have a really nice, large group of people here. So for the first 5 people, how many? 5 people that come see me immediately after the meeting and place a new order or reorder, I'm going to buy you $100 at Cutco for your own personal kitchen as a thank you from me to you. If you want to be one of those first 5 people, I need you to put a star on your card. So put a what? A star on your card. Why? Because there's a lot of you and only one of me, and this will catch my attention, and then I'll be able to meet with you. I'll be in my conference room. That's my new office for the next 30 minutes. Thank you. If I'm in there talking with someone, don't run in and interrupt. Sometimes we're talking personal stuff and want to keep it personal. Just come back in 3 minutes. That's how long the meeting takes. It's really, really fast. I'm going to give this gift here, and it's going to kind of snake and then go that way. And I'm going to give this gift, and it's going to kind of snake and go that way. Now, if you don't have a business card that you have on you, don't worry about it. We have an awesome new program. You pull out a $10 bill, write your name and number. I'll call thank you for your donation. I'm just kidding. I have a clipboard here. You can write your name, your number, and your email. Make sure you just put a star so it stands out. That is my time. Does anybody have any specific questions for me? Make sense? All right, we're good. Can I share the gift script real quick?
Great, yep.
Yeah, so the gift script, a lot of people ask me like, what the hell do you say when you give a gift to somebody, especially knives? Like, here, they're awesome. So basically we email you the script and it goes something like this. So if I saw Stephanie, by the way, when's the best time to give a gift to a client? 2 to 3 weeks later, because they're more settled into their home, right? Because, you know, closing day is chaotic. So, hey, Stephanie, I got you this gift. The reason I got you this gift is that we have this product in our home, and it's, you know, it's guaranteed forever. And basically, when you use it, I just want you to, you know, think about us. So this is just a reminder that I'm forever at your fingertips for any future, you know, real estate transactions or referrals. As a matter of fact, I look forward to building you an entire set through future referrals and transactions. Here you go. That's how Louisa does it. And that's why she gets so many damn referrals, because she tells them how to treat her with the future. And we'll email that to you. All right, that's my time. Thanks.
Danny, thank you so much for your energy and your professionalism and et cetera, et cetera. So thank you. Okay, Cindy, do you want to come up and give the introduction for our guest speaker today?
Okay, Levin Bagdasarian, come on down. This is everybody an appraiser, a real appraiser, so be nice to them. But we have, I mean, I have a lot of burning questions, so I'm hoping that you'll give us kind of an overview. I'm thinking like over the last couple of years, what's different in terms of capacity, turn times, challenges, you know, what's happening with contingency waivers and rushes and things like that. So, and I'm sure we all have questions and you'll be allowed to do that after he gives us a little overview. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Cindy. So, hello, everyone. My name is Evelyn Bagdasarian. I am a certified residential appraiser. I've been appraising for over 20 years now. Just give a little quick background about myself. And I'm licensed in the state of California as a fee appraiser, which allows me to appraise residential property at any value point for banks, for independent appraisals, for private lending, but primarily my business is with banks, and that's pretty much what we're going to be talking about. And I'm one of the House America's preferred appraisers, which is a good advantage because it allows them to pick appraisers that know the area and the territory. To answer your question about the last 2 years, what we've seen ever since COVID hit, we had a little stumble for about a month, and ever since then, rates obviously is one of the big points, have been favorable, causing prices to go up, the supply being short, so there's been a high demand. People starting to work from home, so people wanting to upgrade. So everybody's wanting to go into residential properties, and the homes have been continuing to go up. And what we're seeing now, the biggest challenge is the valuations, how to get to these values. And what the biggest challenge is, we need comps that support the value. And we've seen a lot of times where the values are not coming in, and that creates headaches. So you had another question, I think, about turn times.
Yeah, it all kind of rolls.
Yeah, so another thing is when the turn times, all these appraisals are being rushed now because of the removal of appraisal contingency, loan contingency, so they're putting extra pressure on the appraisers. And we try to do our best, our due diligence, to give you the best valuation, and there's only so much an appraiser can do. So I always recommend agents, when they come to the property, to have their comparables available so they can say, hey, this is how we got to this price point. And that way the appraiser has a little bit understanding of what's going on and see if that's supportive or not. And I always get the question is, oh, well, we had 30 offers on the property. So if the buyers are willing to pay that, that means it has to appraise, and that's not necessarily the case. Because it all, again, comes down to the comps. If there's no sales that support your purchase price, the appraiser is not going to be able to bring that price point. So it's very important when you are selecting your accepted offer that make sure that you have comparables that actually support that valuation, or else it's going to have a problem with the appraisal.
So are you seeing values starting to slowly rise because people are paying over the appraised value?
Yeah, it's always starts off, if it's priced well, it's pretty common trend that it's going way over asking, or even if it's just priced at a certain point and they get multiple offers, it seems that people are just keep overbidding until they get their offer accepted, and then they say, okay, then we'll worry about the appraisal afterwards. And then it's the pressure comes on us and saying, okay, how are we going to get to these values? And that goes back to what I was just mentioned earlier. If there is not enough data or actual sales to support that contract price, we won't be able to appraise it.
I mean, go ahead, because I have a lot of questions.
Yeah.
How much weight can you give like active listings where, they might be reaching, but still it's like, how much do you take into that?
So it has to be closed data to give your actual valuations.
So you put no weight on.
So the banks will require, because we're going to be talking mainly about banking lending purposes. So with Fannie and Freddie Mac guidelines, what they ask for. So once you have established your closed sales and whatever that appraiser's valuation is, let's just assume $1 million, and your listing is $800,000, it's supporting, then you're contradicting yourself because you're now saying, well, I'm saying it's worth $1 million, but the current market doesn't support that. The active listing, all that shows to the lender, or whatever your valuation as an appraiser, if it's $1 million, then you have to have listings that are supporting your number as well. But we cannot give, if the listing is 1.5, someone can just list a house at any price, doesn't necessarily mean it's going to sell for that price.
Right.
So that's just to show, to demonstrate to the lender and to the reader that, hey, this is the valuation I came up with, and these are some pending or active listings that are in that price range. So to answer your question, you can't give value to an active listing. And I always get the question is, let's say the appraisal was taking place as of today, which is the effective date, and 2 weeks later, that sale closes for 300,000 over, and they come back to the lender and say, oh, let's reconsider the value and have the appraiser reconsider his number and give us a higher value. But once that appraisal is complete on that date, we cannot use a comp that sold after the effective date.
So today, I'm seeing a lot of people who are waiving the appraisal contingency. And they're trying to hurry up and, get an
Right.
appraisal in so that they can see, so they can use their loan contingency
Right.
basically as an out. What is that doing for your turn times? What's a standard turn time and when does it pay to get a rush?
Well, it again depends on the lender, and when we're going to talk about like working with House America, they'll try to locate their preferred appraiser, which is what I am, and they're going to try to find the appraiser that best knows the area, and then see their availability, and if they can take on that assignment, if you need it within 2 or 3 days, then they're going to try to reach out to an appraiser that's willing. If I'm overwhelmed, then I'm going to have to turn down that order. But if I can meet those demands, then there's extra fees that are obviously going to be requested from the appraiser, and then that'll go back to the lender and see if the client is willing to pay for that, and then the appraiser then will to get it done within that turn time to avoid those contingencies.
Got it. So I know that things like a modern kitchen are important in adding value. What would you say are some of the top things besides just comps in general that either add value or take away from the value when you're looking at a property?
So if you have a house that's what you're talking about, that's completely remodeled, new kitchen, new bathrooms, A to Z, it's remodeled, then it's the appraiser's job to compare apples to apples. So we're not going to go take a comparable that's completely outdated and then put it in the report and then give weight to that and say, this is your valuation. So the market will kind of dictate a house that's fully remodeled, what it's selling for versus a house that's not remodeled, or a house that's, been updated, but it's maybe 10, 15 years ago. And based on that data that we see, we kind of try to, it's because it becomes very subjective. We don't put a cost on improvements. So, I go to people saying, well, I spent $200,000 on my kitchen. Doesn't necessarily mean your property is going to go up $200,000. It's going to be based on the available comparables. But it's our job to make sure we look for sales that have that similar upgrades and finishes. But anytime you have a remodeled kitchen, bathrooms, or if you expanded the house, it will typically increase the value. Sometimes you add a swimming pool or do major landscaping, that sometimes doesn't necessarily make the property value go up dramatically as it would if you did the kitchen or the bathrooms.
What about views and ADUs?
So if your property has a view, again, you have to compare apples to apples. You have to make sure you have a comp that has similar views. So you can't just say, well, our property has panoramic views, and then an agent comes and says, here, look at all these comps that didn't have views, they sold for so much less. Our views it's $1 million view, the famous line that they use. But you have to have a comp that has a view versus a house that doesn't have a view, and then that kind of tells you again what the market is dictating. And again, it becomes very subjective. As I go do the appraisal, I'll say, you know what, based on this data, the adjustment is only 50,000 or 100,000. Another appraiser may come and say, it's only a 5% difference that I see for homes with a view versus homes without a view. And then to answer your question about the ADUs, Same thing which I always see the biggest problem is people or agents are listing the property with the combined square footage of the house and the ADU and the total bedroom bathroom, and then they're using that price per square foot, which is not how it works when it comes to the appraisal world. When the house has an ADU, we have to base it off the main primary house if it's a 3 and 2 and 1,500 square feet, and there's a 1,200 square foot ADU, which is the max in the city of Los Angeles. And we don't look at comps that are 2,700 square foot homes. We look at homes that are 1,500 square foot with an ADU. And then there's obviously different price points for ADUs where there's sometimes a converted garage or a ground up new construction ADU. And that there's a difference in prices on that as well. And you will most likely see that once you see the sales. So when it comes to the appraisal, just remember that you have to find comps that have the ADU and know that the appraiser is only going to use the square footage of the main house as the main square footage, and then bracket and make a separate adjustment for the ADU.
So what if there's like, I've always been curious as to how certain things are calculated. So let's say you're on top of Mulholland, you have this, let's say Paul's house, for example, right? And let's say there's no comps let's say it's 120 days back of something that's similar. So then how do you calculate, what the current value is of that if there's no recent comps? So do you just base on what you're seeing is increasing, if there was a 20% increase over the last few months or whatever, right?
Yeah, so always there's always going to be a way to appraise the property. For going back to banking requirements, typically we're allowed to go back 6 months and within a mile radius. When we come to a point or a challenge where it's in Mulholland, where it's hillside, there's limited sales, people don't necessarily sell in that area, then we are allowed to, it's based on the preliminary research. If we don't find data, then we start expanding the search. So then we'll go back 12 months if we have to, and until we find a similar comparable that is in that area, and then maybe find a competing property that is more recent. So then you can make that appropriate time adjustment based on what we're seeing as far as market trends, which is now we're seeing an increase. So if we have an older sale that sold for whatever it was, $1 million, and I'm trying to understand what the value of the current sale is, but I found a competing property that sold for 1.2, but not necessarily the same neighborhood, then I could say, okay, maybe there was a 8% or 10% increase within that last 6 to 8 months. And then we make those appropriate adjustments.
Interesting. Hey, Andrew, can you look in the chat? There's some questions there.
While he does that, what about a reconsideration of value? If you come in low, when does it even make any sense whatsoever to try to get a reconsideration of value? And what's the best and the least effective way to do that?
Well, I mean, most appraisers, once they do their appraisal, they think that's it. I know what I'm doing. I'm sticking to my guns. But most appraisers that are experienced are open-minded, and we're human. We can overlook a comp sometimes. So if there's a comp that clearly was a good indicator of value, meaning it was similar in square footage, similar in condition, similar in the neighborhood, and it's an appropriate sale, and it's a recent sale, then you can make that reconsideration and that argument to the appraiser, say, hey, I think you overlooked this one sale, see if this is something that would help the valuation. And in some cases it works, and in some cases it doesn't, because sometimes, going back to the view property, if you have a property that's not a view, and then all of a sudden they come back with a reconsideration with homes that are double the size or panoramic views, appraiser's not going to accept those comps because it's not similar. So it's very important, if you're doing a reconsideration, that you're selecting accurate and comparable comps.
It sounds, back to your original point, like the best thing to do is make sure you have comps
From the beginning.
When you're.
Yeah, so if you do your due diligence from the beginning and you educate and let the appraiser know, because sometimes the agents know more than we do. So, they've sold some homes in the neighborhood. They know exactly what's going on. So they'll say, hey, I sold this property 3 months ago, and I got 20 offers on this one, and this one has this upgrade and that upgrade, and I have another sale that's sold around the corner, and I'm not sure if you got it. And sometimes I look and I'm like, oh gosh, I don't have that one. So And it really helps our job. And that also helps based on what you were asking about the turn times. Now I have additional sales. I don't have to go back and scramble, go back to the office and say, oh gosh, I missed this comp and I got to go back out there and take pictures, and speeds up the process if you come prepared.
You know what, I didn't think about that, but there's been many cases where I've ordered an appraisal and got the report back like right away. And on those occasions, usually the agent has said, yeah, I met with them, I gave them comps and all
Right.
that stuff,
Right.
so.
Yeah, it just makes it a little bit easier because we have so much work to do as far as measuring pictures, driving, and then typing takes a lot of time. So
Few questions online, and I think you kind of answered one. Do you want to see the comps when you come to the property or prior to reviewing? It's probably preferable prior.
all the information has to be provided beforehand, because a lot of people thought, oh, you can't communicate with the appraiser, you're not allowed to. No, you're perfectly fine to provide sales. Once the appraisal is completed, then you're not allowed to contact the appraiser and start challenging and say, hey, why didn't you? That's where you have to contact your lender and then go through the reconsideration process.
And then can an agent refuse to have his client use a specific appraiser? Is that allowed?
That would be something more from a lender's standpoint. If something went wrong, they for some reason didn't like the appraiser, going back to House America using preferred appraisers that are know the area, know the territory. But if they send someone that's not familiar with the area and they just don't feel comfortable, they probably have to do that prior to the appraiser coming, because there will be some sort of fee involved, because some trip fee. So from the beginning, if you should do your Q&A questioning to the appraiser beforehand and see if they know the area, make sure they're familiar before you feel comfortable having them come out, because once they come out, you're going to have to pay some sort of fee.
And then another question, how do you use a purchase that comps but was an all cash purchase?
Well, if it's all cash, oh, you mean a comparable that sold all cash? Yeah, as long as it's a valid closed sale and it's a cash purchase, it's perfectly fine to use it as long as it dictates what the market is, what's trending. That's perfectly fine. That happens all the time. Some people, going back to quick closes and removing all these contingencies, people want to close fast, so that's perfectly fine.
And then the last one was, which is more important, an older comp or an out of distance property? Which do you weigh more?
Well, if it's a dated sale, but it's within close proximity, like down the block, then that would be a strong indicator. And something that's further away, depending on how similar it is to the property, will kind of give weight to that as well. But it's typically always the most recent sales and the ones that are most similar in square footage, condition, and location.
Okay.
How do you appraise like properties that has unpermitted
Sure.
bedrooms? So let's say it's on paper, it's 3 bedrooms to back, but then in reality it's actually a 4th bedroom, but then the 4th bedroom is not permitted.
So that happens all the time, where public records will show 2 and 1, and then you get to the property, it's marketed as 3 and 2. So if the addition is not permitted, the banks will not allow to give value to the unpermitted area. It has to be permitted. So you have to have some sort of certificate of occupancy, or back, if it's something that was done 60 years ago and title didn't reflect it, then you've got to do your homework and pull that permit and have it ready for the appraiser and say, hey, there's a discrepancy with title. This is actually permitted. It's not a 2 and 1, it's actually a 3 and 2. But if it's unpermitted, then we will put in the report, we'll sketch it, we'll show the unpermitted area, but the appraiser will give them a value to it. You had a question?
Yeah, so are you referring to the direct communication with the appraisers, so we can communicate with the appraiser before, just not after? Is that HVCC?
Yeah, so when you arrive, meaning communication is strictly based on the property. So not talking about value, just providing, once you start talking, well, I need this number and that number, that's where it becomes a no-no. But when you're coming there and saying, here's I have data that supports the contract price, and you're explaining what each comp is, that's perfectly fine.
A follow-up to that. So my partner and I, by the way, I'm Benjamin Acosta with Fidelity Title.
Okay.
We get asked a lot when an agent notes a property is like closing this week,
right,
or yesterday or next week, we have the ability to source that property and pull the grant deed and use the transfer tax and work the math backwards to find out what that house sold for. But being that LA County is so inundated with recordings, their plant date or date of record could be 2 weeks behind us.
Right.
So often agents will call us and say, hey, I know this property sold, I'm having issues with value. Can you help me prove to the appraiser
Right.
that this property sold? Is that acceptable, or do you have to wait for the county to actually come?
So
to
you're
that
probably
date?
talking about new construction, which is delayed more, and that, so because, so if MLS, so typically when we do our research, it, like you said, it takes maybe 5 days, 7 days, sometimes it's only 3 days, but new construction typically takes a lot longer. So when we see the MLS shows a recent sale, let's say the appraiser came out on, today's the 18th, and the property closed on the 17th, but there's no data that reflects that. But the MLS does show that, then we try to call that listing agent there, and then they
Right.
channel it to you. And then you provide me that information. Yes, it did record on such and such date, because what will happen is we can put all that information on the appraisal, and it's acceptable because it occurred prior to the effective date. But chances are the lender, or the bank, I should say, will come back and condition the appraiser if there's no doc number on it.
Right,
So we need that doc number at the end of the day.
the instrument number document.
Correct, that verifies that it actually recorded and sold.
Right,
But we can use that sale and we can make a comment, because I do new construction all the time, where we're dealing with the sales office, they always forward it to title companies and say, get the doc numbers from them.
lastly, and I'm sorry to follow up,
Yeah.
often we do see, all title companies, we pull our data from the assessor, not building and safety.
Right.
So often these amazing talented agents will go out, will do their listing presentations. They'll pull a property profile from a respective title company. We show it, for example, 4-bed, 3-bath, 2,300. Agent shows up, does the analysis, and the homeowner added square footage.
Right.
But we're not reflecting that from a title standpoint, because that message has not been received by the assessor. And it's important to understand that building and safety and the assessor, even though they're both government agencies, they do not in LA County do this.
Right.
So often we have to find that certificate of occupancy and work backwards that way. Do appraisers typically start their jumping off point by looking at the assessor and what the assessor's tax roll is showing for bed, bath, square footage? How much weight gets put on that versus, oh, here's a bunch of permits and the finalized permit?
So it's a process. So when we pull our data, it's public records, which is what you're talking about. And whatever that shows, we assume that's what it is. And then, of course, if the MLS is, in a lot of cases, shows a different number, because like you said, agents do their thing and they show different bedroom, bathroom count. So then that's why we go out and measure the property and to see what it actually measures out to. And physically, we see how many bedrooms, bathroom it is. And then we channel through the next step and say, okay, I'm seeing discrepancy on the listing, I'm seeing discrepancy on public records. What's going on? Then that's where if everyone's doing their homework beforehand, they can say, well, no, this has been permitted. Here's the certificate of occupancy. And sometimes, it happens all the time. Well, it's permitted, and I have to do the digging and go online, or I have to go down to the city and try to pull that permit and see if it's permitted or not. Because sometimes they say, oh, it's permitted, and then when I do the actual digging, it's not necessarily permitted. But if it is permitted, then it should match up to what I measured it. And then I go into an explanation saying, public record says 2,000 square feet, but after physically inspecting the property and measuring it, and based on the MLS listing and the permits provided, the house is actually 3,000 square feet.
And the CLO, so then you wouldn't necessarily need the assessor to update.
No.
You could base your findings on what you just laid out.
Correct. So on the
Right.
appraisal report, we'll always put a copy of the public records, what that shows. And then we'll provide a copy to the lender, the permit that shows the addition or whatever was done to the property, or an ADU, that will reflect it and show what it was done. And then my measurements will back that up.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah.
What about condos? Any unique challenges with those?
Yeah, so the biggest challenge with condos is again, Fannie Freddie Mac guideline. What I always see the biggest problem is if we have sales that have occurred in the project, the appraiser, especially if it's a model match, the appraiser must use that sale. And I've had so many cases where 2 months ago, a condo sold for 500,000, and all of a sudden with this multiple offers, they're at 590, and it's only 2-month-old comp, and they're both like, well, there's competing properties that are much higher, but that comp is similar in condition to the one that we're doing. The appraiser can't support a 590 value when the comp just sold for 500. You may get away with 5 or 10,000 because of the market. In the last couple of months, you can make an argument that it's gone up a little bit, but you can't support a $90,000 jump. So always keep in mind when you guys have condos, if there are sales in the project that are specifically model match, make sure there's something substantially different. If it's completely outdated, or if it was an auction sale, and then your unit is completely remodeled, that's the only time where the appraiser can really show to the lender and to the reader that why this is selling for so much more than that last condo sale.
A question on the chat was, if agents are looking for out of the area comps, how far should they look? Like what's considered close distance?
Well, it depends again on location. So if we're in LA, let's say let's just take Sherman Oaks, for example. If you're north of the Ventura Boulevard, you're not going to take comps a mile out and go south of the boulevard, which is completely different marketability because people tend to pay a lot more for the view side versus the north side. But if there's absolutely no comps in that specific territory, then you can go outside of a mile. But once you start going to different zip codes in different city, that's where it has to be something similar to the subject. Or if we're in the city of, let's take an actual real city like Glendale, and you're not going to go take comps from La Cañada or Burbank because it's a completely different marketability. So it has to have similar school districts. It has to make sense. You can't just go. The old saying is, if you can't find the value, just go to Beverly Hills, right? So then you'll get your comp. So you got it's got to make sense. It has to be within its neighborhood, within its boundaries. But you can't go outside of a mile. Yes.
What about recent flips?
So yeah, so recent flips again. If a property is just shown that it was sold for an auction sale, let's say 500,000, all of a sudden now it's going for 1.5, it's a dramatic price increase. That always gives a red flag to the lenders, and because keep in mind as an appraiser, when we're submitting these appraisals, we're regulated and we go through a collateral underwriting. So there's a score on these appraisals. So Fannie Mae gives an automatic red alert saying, why is there such a substantial increase? So we have to make sure what was done. And again, goes back to you guys saying, okay, here's a list of all the improvements. This is what was put into the property. There was additions, but the key factor is it must be permitted in most cases with lenders. When it's not permitted, a lot of the lenders the appraiser will do his job, but there'll be made some consequences when it's not permitted, when there's such a substantial price increase. So make sure that, when there's a big flip, that it's permitted. Meaning electrical, plumbing, kitchen remodeling, those are all required to have permits.
I will throw out there that if anybody is entertaining a listing and they're in question about what the value should be set at, and you want to run the scenario by us, we're happy to check in with our appraisal department and get a sense from them as to what they're valuing it at.
Yes. Yes.
No, go ahead, Bill.
This is about the ADU going back.
Right.
So right now, Fannie and Freddie do not use rental income from the ADU. But if you perform a new appraisal, do you do a rental survey on the ADU?
If the lender requires it. So it depends on that. We don't give based value on the rental. This is mainly on the market. I think that when they ask for the rentals, typically if it's a non-owner and they need to know, based on the qualifications for the for the client. So they just kind of want to know what the rental, what the market is for a rental for an ADU or for the single family for that matter.
Plus you have non-QM loans, as you know, that allow them to come in with ADUs.
So before I let you get off the stage, right? This has been amazing, amazing information. What would be, I mean, obviously, communication between the listing agent or the buyer's agent, just agents in general, and communication with the appraiser is paramount.
Right.
So is there anything, I mean, what, you know, if you just say, hey, make sure you do blah, 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 what would that list be? Other than just comps? Is it just comps?
Well, yeah, well, once you're pricing, make sure you have the comps that are, you always look for comps that are within a mile, the most recent sales, similar in square footage, similar in condition, and provide those comps that to the appraiser, and then the appraiser will do his job.
The number of bedrooms is important.
Absolutely. So if you have a 1 bedroom, you can't just provide 2 and 3. So you gotta have a 1 bedroom in there. Or yeah, everything has to bracket. So if you have a pool, there has to be a comp with the pool. If you have views, you have to have a comp with the view. If your house is completely remodeled, you have to have a comp. You can't have, if your house is 1,000 square feet, you can't just provide the appraiser with 2,000 or 1,500 plus. You have to have something similar or a little bit less square footage. So everything has to bracket.
So do you usually go, that's a good thing. So, so do you usually recommend going like 200 square feet? Let's say if you have a 2,000 square foot, like go 18 to 22.
So that's a great question, because a lot of people say, oh, what's the price per square? Oh, the price per square foot is this. They take the smallest house and then say, and so price per square foot does not give the appraiser's evaluation, because the rule of thumb is if you have a 500 square foot home, it's obviously going to have a higher price per square foot than a 3,000 square foot home. So it has to be apples and apples. So what we typically do, and what I also recommend, is try to find your comps within 20 to 25%, because that's what the Fannie and Freddie Mac guidelines are. If there are no comps going back to like a Mulholland custom 7,000 square foot home, then you have to broaden the search and maybe go 30% or 35%. And then it's the appraiser's job to explain why they had to go that route, because of the lack of data. But when you have a ton of sales and you're then providing an appraiser with a 40% difference in square footage, he's going to throw that out. You know, he's not going to use that sale. So 20 to 25% is what I always recommend.
Nice.
I just want to give my takeaway from all of this. As a listing agent, before we accept just the highest offer, we should be calling that person's lender, especially if it's way over the list price, to make sure that they do have the ability just to put more money down if the appraisal doesn't come in
Right.
at the right number, and more room for that, that's my big takeaway from that. And as buyer's agents, we need to really spend time explaining, really on both sides, how important this is and how it could really, affect it. And I know some people just use it as a tool to get it in escrow and hope that then they can get the seller to reduce the price. But I think we're not doing our client service by using that strategy. That's my takeaway.
And you're absolutely, and that happens all the time where if the purchase price is 1.5, the appraiser can only support 1.450, and then they're trying to do reconsideration just to try to see if they can push the appraiser to go higher. But that's the number. And that's what kind of dictates the market to keep showing this increase, right? So it's always who's willing to pay that extra. Someone to say, hey, you know what? I know this location. I'm here for the next 20 years. I know this price is going to appreciate. I'm willing to pay that 50,000, and that's part where you say
they need to clearly understand
educate them.
That's what it is.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think
And when
it's a
you
great
get,
class for agents, especially new agents.
and then it's also important to explain to the client after, when the appraisal comes in short, why it came in short, and if you still feel comfortable to move forward.
That's why there's so many bombs right now. I think.
Yeah, well, and that's why if it's my listing, I always call, I call every lender just to see, and then explain that to the seller. Of course, it's their choice, but so that they clearly understand the consequences. Or potential consequences.
Related to that, I would think it's also important to set your sale price at what you think the value is versus what you think you can get.
That's sometimes difficult, as you know, but I agree with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right, sometimes it's hard to get the sellers to be realistic. Again, you have to be able to have that difficult conversation. Okay, Mr. Seller, I will do this, but I don't agree with this. And,
Yeah.
you know, we need to have a plan for reduction.
It's gonna cause a bump in the road very likely.
Yeah. So.
Thank you. It was amazing. Thank you. Really appreciate a lot of great value there in that presentation, so I appreciate it. And it really, at the end of the day, it all comes down to setting the expectations, like Linda is talking about, is you have to have those hard conversations at the very beginning, right? And let them know to say, hey, there's a possibility. I mean, Luis is dealing with this right now, all contingencies removed, et cetera, appraisal didn't come in, now the buyer's all pissed off. Well, we all know that that's the risk that they're taking when they're, spending $1 gazillion over a list price, et cetera. So just making sure that everyone's qualified and can make that decision and so on and so forth. So thank you. All right. It is, okay, I'm just gonna go through a couple things. We have 4 minutes, 3 minutes. Okay, so, before I go through anything, because let's do this. Selima and Emilio have something that they want to share real quick. So come on up.
Come on up.
Come on up. Come on up.
Want to do 1 minute? I'll do 1 minute.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, so we quickly just want to take a minute and talk about the food draft that SRAR is offering. So obviously, it's the initiative is to serve those families and individuals in need. And so we have a collection box right over there. And you guys can actually, and it's actually going to MEND, which is meet each need with dignity. That's what it stands for. And it's a poverty relief agency. And a lot of families really rely on this, and it's really supported them. So we urge you guys to, donate. And also we have a flyer. If you guys want to reach out to me or Emilio, we can provide you guys with a flyer so you guys can use that as engagement with your client or for your clients and post it on your social media, or if you want to, personally hand it out, whatever. So the deadline is May 6th. So we'll be dropping it off and they'll be.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, it's a great cause, guys. Let's pull behind it together and, see if we can raise as much as we can. We have a few weeks left, so whatever you guys can donate, that's great. I've already made the first donation, so our pantries have been cleaned out. But along with the our YPN is our Young Professionals Network. We always say I'm not the youngest cat in the world here anymore, but young and old can join our Young Professionals Network. So we're actually bringing that to the Market Center here at Calabasas. It'll be spearheaded by Salima and myself. So we'll have a sign-in sheet with Tammy. If you guys want to email her, if you guys want more information on what we're going to be doing as an initiative here at Calabasas. Me and Salima are part of the YPN group with SRAR, and part of it is doing the food drive. We're doing what else are we doing? We're doing a blood drive. We're doing a bowling night, and then for those golfers, we're doing a golf day in October. I think it's for October 31st. So we're really looking forward to those events, and then whatever we can, we're going to be holding a committee meeting soon for the Market Center and see what we can come up with to further advocate for our association. So
Do you have a list of the food items, or do you have just
it's non-perishables.
Yeah.
Cool. So that's it.
All right, awesome.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Okay, so this is your moment with me. Okay, that's it, okay? And then we'll go on, because we had, as you know, I just got back, Lisa, Philip and I just got back from Mega Leadership in Round Rock, Texas, outside of Austin. Oh yeah, that was fun. there was a tornado coming through, and so the entire sold out hotel had to go to the basement. And we had drinks in hand and everything. It was perfect time. It was during happy hour.
That's a good time.
Just like, can I take this? I'll leave my purse. Anyway, but I want, at our next meeting, I mean, it was a very intimate time with Gary Keller. You know, we had him for like 7 hours total over those 3 days. And the nuggets and getting him raw and understanding and so on and so forth. So, you know, he's talking about the economy and you know, that we're spending money at a massive rate right now. And the government's trying to put a hold on, you know, kind of trying to squash us spending money, but we don't want to pay any mind to it. So, but I'll go over that in our next team meeting. I'll go through all the nuggets and bullet points for you guys and really understand where Gary Keller is coming from. As you guys know, Ignite starts tomorrow. That's tomorrow's Wednesday, right? Okay, so make sure you're here at 10 o'clock with Philip Crispino. He's super excited about that. And then right after our team meeting today is the power couple, Ben and Jamie, generating new business, learn the best practices to get your phone to ring now. They are amazing instructors and presenters. So super excited to have you guys doing this. So thank you. So make sure you stay after for that. Yeah, so our calendar, right? So the Ignites, like I said, start session 1 is tomorrow at 10 o'clock. Session 2 is on Friday. So we're always flipping, always Wednesday, Friday for that. Oh, and then that's Mega Leadership. That's Jay Papazan. And that was us getting into the hotel, arriving in Austin, Texas. And then we had, at the resort that we had, they welcomed us because we took up the whole resort. And there was a few of us there with Ford Living. So we just had a great experience to just get to know the owners and our powerhouse group that we have amongst all the 13 offices. So, and this place that we had dinner at was spectacular. What was it called again?
Commodore Perry Mansion.
Commodore Perry. Yes. Mansion. So then we have Red Day coming. We'll have that email go out to you guys this week. And since we're running a little bit late, that is, oh, it's not too bad, 11:02. Okay. So with that said, have an awesome day. Stay for Jamie and Ben and take care.
Stephanie.
Yes.
Hi, this is Alexandra. Is it possible to have